Welcome. Time for a quick roundup of what's happening in Missouri politics. Another week and another set of laws on the docket to restrict LGBTQ rights. House Bill 1973 was a school transportation bill that had broad bipartisan support. But I guess hearing the word trans in transportation must have triggered Republicans that they could not let a single freaking week go by without attacking trans rights. So they pulled a creative legislative trick by changing the name of the transportation bill so they could add this gem of an amendment.
Any student who is enrolled in a public-funded secondary school or who participates in any sex-separated interscholastic athletic contest organized by the school that operates under the rules provided in this statewide athletic organization with a public school district as a member, including but not limited to MISHA, shall be eligible to participate only in athletes contests organized by persons of same biological sex included on the student's birth certificate.
Considering how much time Republicans have spent this session focused on restricting LGBTQ rights, you might think they've done a fair amount of research. Yeah, nope.
Are you aware that it doesn't say biological sex on the birth certificate?
No, I am not.
Okay. Well, that's an unfortunate oversight for you. Also, wanted to point out, did you know that people's biological sex can be changed on birth certificates?
Well, I guess if that is the case and it's on their birth certificate, then this bill would not apply. Would that be correct?
Okay, so as long as we make sure that our trans friends get their sex changed on their birth certificate, this law wouldn't apply to them. Do you know that there are folks born with penises and uteruses?
Yes.
Okay. And you know that people are born with testicles and vulvas?
Yeah, but my daughter was born with a vagina and I was born with a penis, and that's where it should stay.
Well, that's not how God made everyone, though.
Have you had a chance to meet with any of our students who have come to the Capitol to testify in opposition to some of the transgender bills that have been before us?
No, I haven't, but I have met with my daughter and my wife. And
okay, and I'm
this
asking,
is about my daughter. This is about my daughter, period.
Curious.
I'm not worried.
I know, it's my inquiry, gentlemen, so just a few questions for you.
So no, I have not.
Give me a yes or no.
I've met with my daughter.
Okay, just say yes or no on these. So have you talked to any families of transgender children?
I talked to my wife and my
Just say yes
daughter
or a
because
no.
I'm protecting my daughter.
So I'm going to take this as a no. Have you listened to any of the committees and the testimony that these families and these students have provided?
I have listened to the committee whenever several members had a bill in committee.
Okay.
Yes.
Have you listened to any of our expert witnesses who have come to testify on the policies related to transgender children?
I've heard the testimony, so I can't deter which exactly expert you're talking about.
Okay. Different medical professionals that have come and they've been able to share their expertise on this issue.
I probably listened to them. I don't recall their exact.
Or are you familiar with the MISHA policy on transgender participation?
I believe I've read it. I'm not completely informed about it. I know there's some rules on that.
Yeah, there are. Are you familiar with how many students have played sports under the MISHA policy for transgender participation?
No, I'm not.
But my understanding is that 4 students.
We are not talking about LGBTQ bills.
Yes, we are.
We are not. We're talking about boys playing
gentlemen,
girls'
that's the
sports.
T. That's the T.
The boys playing girls' sports.
I mean, I'm having a hard time listening to this. The T is transgender.
Your vote on the record will last forever. It will last forever. And I can guarantee you that while not all of you will regret it, I know that some of you looking at me right now will.
Obviously it passed. Here's something fun. Did you know that in Missouri it is still legal to discriminate against employees based on their sexual orientation or gender identity? Well, Representative Shamed Dugan, a Republican, offered an amendment to prevent public schools from discriminating in this way. Democrats, of course, and even some Republicans were on board.
We currently have a state of injustice when it comes to LGBT folks in our state. This is a very, very simple amendment, Mr. Speaker. Hate to say those words. It simply says that no school district in the state of Missouri shall discriminate against current or prospective employees based on their sexual orientation or their gender identity. And so this will send a message to anybody who wants to be a teacher, that you're welcome in the state of Missouri.
Somebody who has family members in the LGBT community, and I love them as much as I love every one of my other family members. There's no difference. And so do I think they should be able to be fired or not offered a place to live because of who they are? Absolutely not.
Or any institution, whether it's a school or a hospital or what have you, if it's religious or religiously affiliated, they're exempt from most of our discrimination laws already.
Right.
So we wouldn't be forcing anybody's church or anybody's religious school
Right.
or religious institution to be doing anything different than what they're doing
and,
now.
and that's what I would like the body to understand. Is what your amendment to the amendment does, what it doesn't do, is affect any of that.
That's right, guys. We can all feel comfortable voting for this because religious groups can still discriminate. So with the chief concern usually voiced by Republican opposition taken care of, surely they wouldn't come up with some other bonkers reason to oppose.
But that amendment would have prohibited firing someone for being a pedophile.
Republicans in the Missouri House voted it down. Now, these aren't the only bills kicking around that restrict LGBTQ rights. These ones restrict trans kids from playing in sports. These ones prevent trans kids from getting proper medical care. These prevent schools from teaching anything about LGBTQ history or characters, and of course, restrict books about it. Here's a school district banning teachers from having signs indicating that it's a safe space for LGBTQ kids. If I keep going, we'll be here all night. Which brings me to my new segment. What messed up stuff are we ignoring while Republicans spend so much focus on restricting LGBTQ rights? It's a working title. There is an ongoing effort to defund public schools here in Missouri. In the latest example, the Mo Scholars Program was sold as providing increased educational options to Missouri students and families, in particular, those with special needs or of limited means. This program allows residents and businesses to receive a credit of up to 50% of state tax liability for donating to the educational assistance organizations. In other words, tax dollars are diverted from traditional public education to this program. So, who has been chosen to run this program? And where will the majority of these new scholarships go? Well, 6 religious groups have been chosen to manage and distribute the scholarship funds. Here's the list. So yeah, scholarships created under a new Missouri law will primarily go to students attending religious schools when the program gets underway in the fall. In its first year, the program is estimated to divert up to $25 million in tax credits to private schools. So, at least the Missouri GOP is consistent. At this point, gun rights advocates are just trolling us, right?
You believe it's unconstitutional for the government to have dealer licensing or background checks required for those dealers?
I do personally believe that it is unconstitutional for background checks.
And would you say most of your members agree with that?
I think that we've got a no-compromise gun rights advocacy group, so most of our members lean very strongly on the shall not be infringed portion of the Second Amendment, and we feel that no restrictions whatsoever are permissible.
I'm curious, would that extend, no compromise, extend to explosive devices too?
Extend to explosive devices as in relation to the bill that we're talking
No,
to?
not just in relation to the Second Amendment and what it means.
Yeah, I personally feel that anything the government has access to, we as citizenry should have access to as well.
So if a big corporation can put together the funds to build a nuclear weapon in America, they should be able to?
I do, yes. I am someone that believes that everything that the federal government has access to, the citizens should also have an equal access to.
There's no joke. Beyond what was just said by that expert that Republicans presented from the Missouri Firearms Coalition. If all goes according to the Missouri GOP plan, McDonald's and Burger King could both have a nuke, hopefully securing mutually assured destruction if that godforsaken McRib comes back. Here in Missouri, innocence isn't enough to free someone from prison for a crime they didn't commit. Yeah, Missouri is one of the toughest states for wrongly convicted people to be freed. That's because here, even if new evidence comes to light that proves your innocence, unless you are on death row, sorry, but I guess that's just not good enough.
If you think that I'm guilty of a crime, then give me a new trial.
Chris Dunn's case has largely fallen apart. It wasn't much to begin with. Teenagers from rival gangs now admit they lied. Dunn has an alibi. There's no physical evidence connecting him to the murder. But a judge ruled things are murky when it comes to innocence. Missouri law is clear. A judge can free a person from death row, but it's unclear when it comes to a lesser charge like life in prison. So Dunn waits. He's been waiting for 32 years.
But you mean to tell me because I'm not on death row, I don't meet the requirements to regain my liberty back that you wrongfully took from me?
This is appalling. There is no other state that restricts an available, freestanding, actual innocence claim to those sentenced to death only. State Senator John Rizzo sponsored Senate Bill 1201, which would allow judges to overturn or set aside convictions even if a prisoner isn't on death row. But here's the thing, it hasn't even made it out of committee. That is rough. The Republican leadership continues to prioritize issues like restricting LGBTQ rights, and their general culture war wins. While it's important to resist the worst of this insanity, we've got to pay attention. Because while the leaders in our state want us to watch that, there's some pretty messed up stuff going on that's just being ignored. But what do I know? I'm just some guy with a tie. Bye for now. Sorry, real quick. You can write or call the Speaker of the House and the Majority Leader in the Senate to tell them to get SB 1201 out for a vote. Worth a shot.